always say kudos to you guys that can bring together a room, like a living room or a bedroom, where you can put in all those fabrics, pillows, all the linens, fireplace surrounds, draperies, and be able to make it look so beautiful, because that's not easy to do.
And it's still a big learning curve because there really is so much more to that side. But I love learning about all the new, the products and the process. Like draperies and window treatments are very intimidating. There are so many little details that go into it, and I like those little details.
You said you were considering going into nursing. I find that also interesting, because it's care for people, and then also what you're doing now as an interior designer is also caring for someone, for space, and helping them bring their visions to life. Hello everyone, and welcome to Design Discussions with Nadine. I'm Nadine, and today's guest is Tiffany Edwards.
Hello.
And she is the owner of Edwards Interior Design. So it's nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're going to get right into it and talk all things interior design, about your business and some fun stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
So you have been in the design industry for 20 years.
Yes.
But you've had your own business for about 10?
Correct.
So let's talk a little about your previous experience with design. I know it was a lot of kitchen and bath work, and then what kind of made you go off on your own?
Yeah. So out of school, instead of sector of hospitality or commercial, I kind of found myself in the kitchen and bath industry. Jobs were short a little about that time, so it was, IKEA or, another firm. So there was a location here. It was called the Great Indoors, and they're no longer here in business, but they had sort of a kitchen and bath remodeling section. So that's kind of where I got my foot in the door after my interior design degree. And then it just kind of took off from there. We lived in Dallas for a little while with my husband, worked for a kitchen and bath design firm there, and then we're from Houston, so I missed home. He missed home. He was a commercial diver, so we traveled a lot, so it didn't really matter where we ended up. So came back home, worked for another kitchen and bath design firm, and I loved both companies. I learned so much, working under the staff there, working under the leadership there. But I got a little burnt out, but I didn't get to do any like fabrics or furnishings and all those other things that you got to kind of learn in design school. And so I had a small daughter at the time who was getting ready to go into kindergarten. I thought, well, I'd love to go work for somebody else, but I don't want that burden of, okay, well, I got to take off for, sickness or vacation or something going on with her school while my husband travels a lot. So I thought, well, I'm just going to try this on my own and kind of see how it ends up. And so we've been here for 10 years ever since. Yeah. So I still do a lot of kitchen and bath design. I still have my foot in the door in that. It's still like ingrained in me. But now I have the opportunity to do more furnishings and fabrics and other things throughout the home.
Which is a big part of interior design, right? And that's part of the things, of course, me being in construction, we do lots of kitchens and bathrooms, but it's all hard surfaces, right? And I always say kudos to you guys that can bring together a room, like a living room or a bedroom, where you can put in all those fabrics, pillows, all the linens, fireplace surrounds, draperies, and be able to make it look so beautiful, because that's not easy to do.
And it's still a big learning curve, because there really is so much more to that side. But I love learning about all the new, the products and the process. Like draperies and window treatments are very intimidating. There are so many little details that go into it, and I like those little details. So that's been a real fun challenge to get to do too. So.
Yeah, and there's so much that changes over time.
Yeah.
So I want to touch a little bit on the fact that you've been in design for 20 years, right? What have you seen has changed over that last 20 years, whether it's good or bad?
Yeah.
And especially like the digital stuff right now, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably been a big help to interior designers, being able to communicate with their clients, not having to be in person. So what have you seen over the years that has changed, whether, and what's your opinion on whether it's good or bad?
The good, I think, so when I was in college, we were learning hand drafting still, which I still love to do hand drafting when I get a chance. But what really got me into the interior design was learning about AutoCAD and learning that there was this opportunity to do house plans and 3D things in this new computerized program. So that was really what kind of steered me in that direction in school. And what made me change my major was this computer program. So I think technology has been a real help in communicating to clients your vision. And it also speeds up the process a little bit too. So with AutoCAD, what we learned was really just a 2D program. And now there's so many versions out there that do 3D. And so just to be able to show your clients, okay, let me change this color, let me put this box in here, let me, increase the size of this furniture, it just helps you sell your vision a little bit easier. And it gets what's in here, out into the real world so that your client can understand what you're trying to achieve for them. So that's been great. I think even during COVID, when we had Zoom meetings, which I still use a lot of Zoom meetings, and that has been a really fabulous tool, because really in the beginning of my process, especially if we're doing a remodel project, my next meeting after I've measured, take photographs, kind of do all that research, is visiting via Zoom, video conferencing, and I can share my screen and I can move through the space. I can change this, I can go over all these options, and it gives the clients a chance to really see it all in 3D and be able to make the changes right in that time. So I think those are really been it's an unfortunate reason for great technology, but it's been a really great tool that I've continued to use after whatever shutdown that we had. But I've started to see a lot of AI come into the process, and so I've tried to dabble a little bit here and there. Of course, they want you to pay for a full year membership or whatever. So I think there's some advantages and disadvantages to that. And I think if you're an interior designer using it, you have to figure out a way to use it to your advantage to help sell your ideas. So if it helps you, okay, we've got this front of this house, let me take a picture, let's change the paint color. I think that's a fabulous tool. But it does give homeowners the opportunity to kind of do things on their own, and they kind of cut us out of the process as well. So I think there's still some challenges around that particular technology.
And I've also heard from another designer that she had a client that saw somebody's work, or what she thought was somebody's work, and it wasn't. It was actually an AI generated, and that other designer, wherever she was, somewhere across the country, never put any hashtags of AI or anything. So,
no.
And I think she was a designer that, of course, did work all over the place. And then this client ended up reaching out to her, and turns out, it wasn't her work.
Right.
So I think that is also potentially a bad part of it too. How people kind of get duped into thinking, this is, hired this person because this is her beautiful work, and it turns out it wasn't.
Yeah.
She didn't know how to do
really scary,
any of that stuff. So
yeah,
it is scary. So I think maybe that's one negative.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a designer that teaches how to use AI in your interior design business. And so she does a really good job of, taking a program that can be deemed, detrimental to the design business, but teaching other interior designers how to use it to their advantage. And then also showcasing all the funny and hysterical things that AI will produce, like just weird, off the wall, you've got a cat sitting up in a corner somewhere, just weird things that kind of pop up. So, but I have seen that too, and that's come across several, design forums and things too, where construction firms and design firms are using AI to create portfolio pictures, and it's not really of their work, and so that's a really hard thing to get past.
Yeah. Well, let's backtrack a little bit more about, you mentioned about your studies in college. And I know that you had mentioned on your questionnaire that you have had a love for art and design as you're a child, moving your bedroom around and all that. And I found that funny because I was kind of like that too.
Yeah.
But I think your love of art, I'm sure, directed you in a way for going into interior design. Right?
Yeah.
Because we see that a lot too.
Yeah. I loved art, took art in high school, and I loved that aspect of it. I took a couple nursing classes in high school as well. So that was sort of where I was, I'm going to go to college. I don't really know what I want to do, but I love art, and I love, helping people and being of service. And so I started taking some art classes in college, and I'm like, this is not going to really be a substantial career for me, more of a hobby. And so, as I'd mentioned, one of my sorority sisters introduced me to AutoCAD, and that's kind of what introduced me to there. But growing up, and I think this is a very common story, through a lot of interior designers, is, you want to move your bedroom around, you want to change things up. And I remember I didn't have a tape measure, so I would use my curling iron cord. Okay, my bed is this long. I know I can take it over here. It's going to fit along this wall. And I love just change of pace that it brought. I remember, my mom would get like the Sears catalog and the Spiegel catalog, and it would have floor plans in it. And I loved looking at floor plans. And so my parents bought me a little like Hobby Lobby dollhouse, and I loved putting it together. So there was some, as I look back, there are some things that really kind of pushed me into this process. But yeah, I was doing it all the time growing up.
And the Spiegel catalog, that's a name I haven't heard of in years.
Yeah, yes, I know. I remember my mother, she would buy it all kinds of things. We would get boxes, vacuum cleaners and all kinds of boxes showing up at the front door. But it was a fun catalog. And then when the Christmas catalog would come out, that was my sister and brother and I were.
Times.
Yeah.
And then the fact that you said you were considering going into nursing, I find that also interesting because it's care for people. And then also what you're doing now as an interior designer is also caring for someone for space and helping them bring their visions to life and everything. So there is a correlation there between the two.
There is, yeah. When I realized nursing probably wasn't for me, I think I did an internship at a colonoscopy, during a colonoscopy, and I was like, you know what, this is maybe not for me. So while I still, I love a serving attitude, I love helping people, that particular part of the world is probably not for me. So I'll figure out somewhere, someplace else to give my time and serve other clients.
Yeah. And you did. So
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And then how do you in your business help bring their clients' visions to life?
Sure.
How do you bring their, I'm sure they send you inspiration photos and all that, but what is your process on how you achieve that?
Yeah. So it's almost like any, problem solving detective work for me. I like to do a lot of research up front, ask a lot of questions. But the main thing for me is, even in that first initial meeting or two, is I want to know, what's in your mind, how do you want to use the space? What do you envision for this space to be? How do you want it to function? So function for me is really important first, and then the aesthetics kind of come into play. But we can't read clients' minds. And so I have to have all of these tools, like how do I pull that information out of their mind? So photographs are always really great. I'll start there, like Pinterest or Houzz or, even magazine clippings, whatever you've got that you've been pulling, show those to me and let's go through those. Because ultimately you start to see a pattern on, okay, she's got white kitchen, cream kitchen, white. So then I see this pattern that they want a very white, light, neutral. And we'll just kind of go through all of the pictures. And sometimes it's just like, oh, I pulled this one because I like the wood floor and I like this. But I think the other important thing is, we get kind of hung up on all of these different design styles, like contemporary, modern, traditional, but I think that can be interpreted differently by every client. And so my goal is to understand, okay, you say you want a traditional kitchen. Well, what does traditional mean to you? Because we could go very traditional, very lots of molding, lots of heavy door styles, or we could go very simple. And so those pictures are really great for me to understand, well, what does traditional mean to you? What is your definition of it? And so that's kind of where I start. And I have a little questionnaire that I have clients fill out, do you like gold? Do you like brass? And those just kind of basic questions. But also seeing what's in their current home, their current furnishings, their current style. The majority of the time they like some of those particular styles kind of interwoven throughout the home. I rarely have a client that says, I don't like anything in my house. So, so I look to what they have currently, because sometimes we'll reuse some of those, those pieces as well. But like I said, pictures are really great, and that's kind of really where I get started.
That's a good step. What is your favorite part about being an interior designer? I'm always curious.
It's probably the before and the after. I think that's my favorite. When I tell clients in the beginning for a remodel project, I'll come up with a couple different options, and it's my worst fear that we don't go through these options, we don't talk about the pros and cons, and someone walks in and says, well, what if you had done this in your kitchen? And then the client's like, oh, I never even thought of that. So, I want to make sure we go through all of the options that are available, but it's that end result is always the most exciting part.
And most of the time it's so drastic.
Yeah, it is.
And even for me being in construction too, doing kitchen, bathroom, or whatever it is, it's amazing to see. And then sometimes, whether it be the homeowner or even myself, working on a project, and then go back and look at the befores when it's finished. And I even sometimes forget, and I'm like, I did this project, but I guess I'm not the homeowner. But even the homeowner will say, oh, I forgot how ugly it was before.
Yeah.
Or I forgot about this. You kind of forget over time. So I know that's a great thing to see.
Yeah, that, and then, just being able to take, the clients will also kind of tell you their problems. So it's like, I don't like this, I don't like that, this is my problem. And then being able to come up with a solution, and it's not always myself coming up with the solution. It's a collaborative process. And so when we can develop that solution for whatever problem that they have, and they're so happy, and if the space functions for them, that's what's also really exciting too. Yeah.
So speaking of projects, is there any that you're really proud of, or one in particular that you want to share with everybody?
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of fantastic projects. I think the one that sticks out the most for me, it was a bathroom and closet remodel, and it was a huge space. And so we did a lot of custom built in the closets. We did a lot of details on the shoe racks. Let's say, for example, we wanted lit shoe racks, but we wanted to make sure that our shoes had a certain amount of height, they were at a certain angle. So every little, doorknob, cabinet door, location of the shoes, the hanging, there was so much detail brought into that closet. And then also into the millwork that went into that whole closet. So that was really fun. And then we did a walk-in, not a walk-in, but a combination bathtub shower enclosure. And we got to do book match slabs, marble slabs all the way around. And so it just turned out really pretty. So I'm really proud of that one.
That's good. I'm going to show pictures of it here.
Yeah, I'll send them to you.
Everybody can see.
Yeah.
Now, I want to talk about challenges as an interior designer.
Okay.
Because I'm sure there's many. What do you think would be the biggest challenges, and how do you overcome those?
I think, let's say, for example, when it comes to product selling for clients and product specifying for clients, there are so many retail options that a client can go shopping for. And as a business owner, as a designer, most interior designers, or a lot of them do, they provide that product in full service interior design where they can supply the product and install it for you. But we get a lot of, Amazon and Shein and Temu and Pottery Barn. And while those can work great for, some spaces, the competition in product selling has been a little challenging. And so for me, it's how I kind of overcome that is, understanding what is valuable to that client. Let's say for a sofa, for example, are you going to be in the home for more than 10 years? Do you have children? You want a sectional, what are some things that, comfort level that you're looking for? Do you want to lay out and lounge on this couch and take a nap? Or is it just for show? You just want to be able to sit down and have a conversation. And so I like to, get that information, but also specify products where I can, meet all of those objectives. So is it a performance fabric that we're putting on there because they have children or pets? Is it something they can take with them at their next home? So I think it's really important to really understand in the beginning what that client needs in those products, because that competition, from online sellers is really big. So
yeah, that's another one of those digital things
Yes.
that a lot of people can see, or they also, I guess the quality of those things too, you just never know what you're getting. So that's what's hard about online, seeing stuff online too.
Right. And you're looking at a fabric or a sofa online, the color is not always true. So some retail places will have the fabric swatches that you can look at, but having a space where, clients can actually see all the fabrics, pick something out, the quality, the options that you have if you're hypoallergenic and you want to put a non-down, alternative in there. So yeah, I think just being educated on what the client needs in the beginning.
That's good. So in closing, I always ask the funny or horror story question.
Okay.
So I have to ask you that. What do you have to share with everybody that you think might be a little entertaining?
It's not recently, but in the past, for some reason, I would get clients that like to leave their adult literature laying around sometimes and things. So I don't know what it is. They just didn't put those away. So I would come in. I'm like, okay, we're going to work. This is what we're working with. So, I've gotten quite a few.
That's
of
funny
those.
I could see maybe that would be a one-off, but the fact you said you had quite a few, that's pretty funny.
It's been quite a few. So, so that's pretty funny going in. And sometimes I'll get clients that have pets that, climb on you or hump you or whatever, so that's always been really, hilarious when you walk in and meet a client and your dog is, trying to grope you. But just thinking about, horror stories, I think it's more of, I think of one client a long time ago, and it's funny how you go through these experiences and you start to learn the red flags. And I was kind of very new in this industry, kind of some of my first projects on my own, working for another company, so I couldn't really just fire the client.
And everything seemed fine in the beginning. It was a little bathroom remodel project. I put it all together, had a contractor out there, quoted her the cabinets, all of the materials. And she decided, okay, well, my husband who was never involved in the beginning, he wants to sub it out all on his own. So she ended up just buying cabinets from me. That's fine. That's what she wanted to do. And everything kind of seemed normal on the surface until it came time to install these cabinets. And so I had my installer out there, and he called me. He said, this client is, she's cursing me out. She's calling me a drug addict. just all kinds of, just out of nowhere. So he couldn't finish.
So I had to get somebody else in there. Same thing. She was just calling them out, calling them, awful names. And so I finally got a third one in there, and I said, just go in there and finish up, whatever you can. So I don't know what set this client off. I don't know, usually with our installers, we vet them. We've worked with them for years, and we know their personality, their manner, their professionalism. So I'm not sure what really set this particular client off. And so it just left a really bad feeling for me, because I didn't pick up on those things in the beginning. So you really kind of, that's one of those experiences where you learn, okay, what do I need to ask up front? Do we need to try to have both partners involved, But yeah, that was interesting.
Unfortunate for the gentleman.
Yeah, I know.
Walk into something like that. But
not one, but three. Yeah. I had three of them. So I was like, it must not be our installers. It must be something else going on that we're not privy to, or I don't know what's going on.
There's some backstory there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Until then, stay tuned for the next one. Bye.